think we want to move on to talking about women in leadership right now. So I think female leaders are still disproportionately underrepresented in many fields, especially science, IT, politics, and there are definitely too few women pastors. So we often hear the excuse that men and women are built differently. So what do both of you think?
What? I think that's rubbish. Well, okay. I mean, you kind of talked about it in your sermon, that we are different, right? That there are differences, that we were created different, and thank God that we're different, because if we're all the same, then, wow, so boring. Yeah. So we are different, but like you also say in your sermon, like we cannot use these differences as an excuse to behave badly, or use them as an excuse to oppress somebody else, right? Like, yeah, we are different, but we are not so different until like this job can only be done by one kind of person. And again, I think it comes back to like power, like I said previously, right? And how if you have a male-dominated environment, then you just want to keep it like boys' club lah, right? Or sometimes a female-dominated environment. And if a guy tries to come in, like recently I was talking to a guy who wanted to go into nursing. And the kind of response he was receiving from other men, I was like, what is your problem? You know, if this is what he wants to do, I mean, we need more people in nursing just to begin with. So if more people want to join, like, yeah, we should encourage them. And if men want to join, like, that's great too, right? So it just kind of is like, I don't know how we got to this point where certain careers are only attributed to certain genders. I think it begins by representation also in the media, right? For example, so I think I follow Straits Times on Instagram, although they're not that great actually on Instagram. But for International Women's Day, they posted a bunch of women in careers that are not traditionally female, not traditionally feminine. And I thought that was great. I think like if you show people that these places can be occupied by people who look different from the norm, then more and more people will start to dream lah, right? Like then guys will be like, you know, I can be a nurse, or I can be a, I don't know, fashion designer, right? Or I don't know what other careers. I can be a stay-at-home dad. And women can be, you know, I can be an engineer, I can be a police officer, I can be a fighter pilot, I can be a dolphin trainer, you know?
Yeah, I feel like representation is a big deal. I think there needs to be a deliberate effort to push representation. And maybe one of the ways to change it is, you know, I like statistics because I think knowledge can change the way you look at things. And the fact of the matter is all studies show that the more diverse a company is, the more profitable it tends to be. The more ideas are generated, the more... So there is no lose-lose. I think the lose-lose comes in this perception of scarcity, that if I let women rise up, I'm going to lose my job. And if I let women rise up, I'm going to lose my position. But the fact of the matter is, and this has been proven in our church, that when you do let women rise up equally, men become equally good. And so it's this big fallacy and lie that there's only a limited space for people, and there's only a limited, you know, amount of resources and finances to go around. Because if you let women into your boardrooms, your company will make more money and then you can pay everybody more. For example, I think it's just a very practical, logical, it makes sense to me, money sense. And I think representation is really important. And that's why I think it's important that Time's Up happens. Because what we see on TV, I mean, the fact of the matter is not just social media, right? Netflix changes your world, all of you. And what you see on Netflix changes your world. Like, I think for me, I always found racism to be a very startling thing, and that's because I had a grandfather and a dad who were very, very eclectic in their taste, and I grew up, my heroes being black singers and etc. And so, to me, diversity is a very exciting thing. But of course, that comes with its own thing about, like, sometimes you become colorblind as well. You think that it's not a problem because, I have diverse friends, or I have female friends, therefore the world is okay and it's fine, but it's not. But representation, I think, is super, super important. And actually in our church, our unspoken policy is that 50% girls, 50% guys in the leadership team. And we'll do whatever it takes to kind of adjust ourselves to create diversity as much as possible. And that one actually we learned from leaders in Hollywood, where now they're having policies where they have to sign in their company. If I work on this movie, half the background staff and half the actors have to be female, and that again lowers the head of the church, which is really, really frustrating. Yeah.
I was just thinking, like, what you guys can do, right, to help this is to be very intentional in your response. So I was just thinking about the situation of this young guy who wants to study nursing, and when he told me this, I realized that I was actually a bit shocked also. I was like, ooh, you want to be nurse? Like, that's very unconventional. But I tried very hard not to show on my face that I was surprised, because I don't want him to feel like he's wrong to choose this. I want him to know that if this is what he believes God is calling him to do, then he should pursue it with all his heart, regardless of what people say. And so we also have to, in our response to our friends, to your youth, whatever, if you're leaders, right, to your sheep, when they tell you these things and it doesn't fit the norm, don't dismiss them. Don't be like, huh, why? You know, I mean, okay, so sometimes we struggle to understand, right? So even in the way you ask questions also, don't be so, like, rude lah, okay? Don't be like, huh, why are you choosing this? You know, like, just think about how you can ask things in a way that are encouraging. So you can be like, so for this guy in nursing, I was like, oh, do you think that this is something that you will enjoy doing? So did you have experiences in healthcare? Is that why you wanted to go down this path? What are your hopes in nursing? And I had to catch myself because sometimes, what I wanted to ask him was like, oh, is it because you want to become a doctor? And I had to be like, oh my goodness, no. Because you cannot assume that all nurses want to become doctors, or that he's a guy, so actually he wants to be a doctor, but he cannot be good enough, so that's why he's a nurse. I mean, all these kind of narratives still were running in my mind because I'm not perfect and I grew up in this world and this is all the things that are in my head. But to check myself and know that my response to him as his leader, right, affects how he feels, right? Because I have authority and in his life, and if I don't respond well, he's going to feel a lack of confidence in where he's going. Yeah. So I just have to be like, seriously, great, go on you. Yeah. And so actually this is reminding me that I should probably text him and ask him how that's going. You know, so keep showing support also, keep showing, like, checking in and being like, you are doing a great thing, and I get that you're going to be facing opposition, but that's not going to happen with me. I'm going to be here for you. Yeah. And so you guys can measure your responses and be careful about that too.
Wow, Pastor, I think that will be very helpful.